Hi, I'm Peggy Usner, and I'm a plein air artist in Louisiana. I love to paint the scenes of South Louisiana, both the landscape and some of the buildings. It's been a career that I actually started as a young person, didn't know it was going to be work out this way. Well, the way I do plein air, and I believe this is the way it's supposed to be, is you take your easel and your paints in your backpack or whatever, and you haul it out to somewhere that you like, set it up, and you paint what you see. So most of the time, something has to just grab me. I go, well, there is something about that scene that just draws me in. So I'm imagining it'll draw other people in too. But I paint really for me. And then once I get that scene in my head, find out the composition that I want, then you just squeeze the tube. Can't do anything till you get the paint out. And then you start. And I paint usually mornings, and I paint between 3 and 4 hours, and I usually finish a painting in that time. Occasionally, if it's a bigger painting, I have to come back, but that's how I do it. Yes. My residency at artist in residence at Longview kind of was a fluke because I was the first artist in residence. I mean, I know people have painted out there, but I official artist in residence. So I was painting with Phil Sandusky, who's a friend and mentor of mine, and I didn't know you could paint out there. But if you're a member or you can just you can paint. Um, I didn't know that. We were painting out there, and we had a show of the people in our group who had painted for the last 3 months or whatever it was. And the woman who was in charge said to me afterwards, see, I kept going back. Once I knew, other people left, I just kept going back. This is great. This is a wonderful place. So I kept going back, and she said, would you be interested in a residence? Artist residence? What? So I said, sure. And so the contract was drawn up, and for 3 years, I was artist in residence, which involved me teaching classes, plein air classes. Occasionally, I might do a still life or a basic design class in the middle of the summer when I wasn't going to go painting outside. And it was just lovely. The people were wonderful. Every season, there's something new blooming or growing, or it changes, the light changes. So it was really, I loved it. And I was actually recently asked by the director, Beatty Landis, that would you like to come back and teach a few classes sometime? So I don't think I'm going to sign up for any long-term thing, but yeah, I did a workshop in April, and I'm going to go back. I think I was born with this. Okay, so yeah, I liked in kindergarten. I liked the color. That my favorite class in kindergarten. Um, but there was actually a show on TV. If you ever look this up, it's going to look really old. John Nagy learned to draw, and he sold little kits and little things and pencils and colors and stuff. And I would watch him on Saturday mornings, and I would copy that. And my dad used to say, oh, that's pretty good. I mean, sometimes I was just doing on loose leaf because that's all the paper we had, right? And then he saw how interested I was, and he always encouraged me. So he got me a little oil painting kit. So I took those oil paints and I copied. I probably could show it to you at some point. A peacock, and he thought it was just amazing, And I said, well, I guess I'm on my way, because I was already hooked. I mean, I would any opportunity to paint or draw, and then also at the public schools in New Orleans, they encourage these things. They encourage dance and music and art, and my pictures would always get up on the bulletin board outside the classroom. I was like, oh yes. And then my junior high school art teacher, Raymond Scully, was an artist who painted. He taught but he also painted around Jackson Square. And he encouraged me more than anything. I got straight hundreds on my report card. And I go, how does that happen? I mean, it wasn't a crib class. You had to do the history. You had to, do well. But he would say that I should just keep going. So then I thought, all right, I'm going to do this. But then I realized you really couldn't make a living as an artist. At least that's what I thought. And so I got a fine arts degree. So I had painting and drawing or design every semester. I mean, it was like, your background was art. And I became an interior designer, so I could use those skills. So I painted a little bit, but and I also did renderings of interiors, which are much more stiff than the things I do now. These are more impressionistic. And people would hire me to do their renderings. So I guess I was good at it. And then I got married and had a child. That relationship didn't work out. So what do? Well, I had been working as a designer, and then this teaching job came up, and I got to teach for 23 years. So my painting was kind of few and far between, but I was still painting. Then when I retired from my professorship, I got to do what I've always wanted to do. And you can see, this is it. This is what I do. And this is really, I always wanted to be outside, and I always wanted to paint. So what else can I do? I mean, I got it. I guess I could have been a mail carrier, and I don't know what, but being outside, yeah. I love being in nature. It just draws me. It draws me in.
What classes did you teach at Delgado?
The full range of design classes, from basic design. I did the professional classes where you had to do the drafting and the floor plans and the space planning. The rendering class, of course, that was me. A history class or two, which is what happened. At Delgado, you needed to have a master's, and I only had a bachelor's. And but they hired me before they had that rule. Anyway, then they tell me I need to get a master's, and I'm okay. Now I'm a single parent. I've got to go away to get a degree in design. There was no place in New Orleans. There still isn't. You can get a master's degree or an undergraduate degree in design. So what can I do? I'll go to UNO. And I realized that I'm teaching history anyway. It would be okay to have a degree in history. Yes, it would be okay to have a degree. Okay, so I got a degree in history. By the hardest, but I did it. So that kind of brought that together. So I have my master's. But I would have rathered it in painting. I love history, though. Can't be from New Orleans and not like history. It is. No, the Impressionists were the ones that I am not a photorealist, though occasionally some people tell me that looks like a photograph. But that's not the point. I figure there are some great photographers. Just get them to take you a picture. But if you want my impression of what I'm seeing, when I'm out there painting, there is the sun, the wind, the smells, the light, it's all there. Now, I can't paint a smell, or I can't paint the wind, though I've tried. But all of that goes into what I'm doing, because I'm there and I'm experiencing it, and I want you to experience it. If you look at that painting, I want you to feel what I felt and see what I saw. And so there's very little of, what would you call it? It's impressionistic, but it's not meant to just convey. When you look at something, you see things over here. You don't even realize it, but you do. Yeah, they're there. So when you're painting, that affects you too. And if you look at a couple of these stacked things I've done, later you can do that. I painted the little one first, but the whole time I was there, you can look at the city park ones. The whole time I was there, I kept going, oh, this needs to be a bigger canvas. You know, I can't capture everything I want. So I'd go back out with my little painting.
So I was gonna ask you that a little later. So that's the aim of the stacked canvases, is to
I
add
just
on.
didn't feel like, right, I
I feel
didn't.
like the original one captured it.
It
well
did.
enough.
It's a beautiful painting by itself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, and I could do that in one sitting. Now, I probably would have had to do 2 sittings anyway, so I bring the painting back and figure out, do I want to see this part of the view or this part of the view? And then I put that painting and kind of draw where it's going to go. Might even do a little underpainting of what's there, and then I finish it and come home and paint the edges. I don't paint the edges out there, but anyway, to me, it just kind of evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I've done bigger paintings, and in one sitting actually, but sometimes the thing that caught my eye was the little small, the
Like when for the city park one, I mean the bridges obviously drew you in.
yeah.
And then
Oh, absolutely.
you realized the trees also have their own story to tell.
Well, yeah, it does. It keeps you. I mean, I don't do it as much as I could actually. I think I could take any number of the ones that are up here and expand it. And it's because I'm there and I've experienced the whole thing, and it's almost like, what a shame. I guess I could do a triptych or just do several paintings,
Mm-hmm.
but that works for
You're
me.
the only person ever to do that. It's very unique, and it also adds depth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It does. But like I said, I've sort of like, especially I did one from in New Iberia, which is behind you, and I did the house, and that was because I was doing the plein-air competition in New Iberia, Shadows on the Teche, and I painted the house on Jefferson Island. That's about all I could have done in that morning, because once the sun changes, you can't be out there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go, or you got to paint a new picture because all the shadows are going the other way. So then I went back and saw that it could be more to it, and you could get a sense of it being within a bigger space, right? That house really had a lot of land around it, and you couldn't tell that from the original picture. So anyway, that kind of thing. And then there's the one of the Chifuncta River that was about to rain, so I left it before my painting got wet, and then came back and held the painting up and decided that part of the pond would add to that, and again that whole expanse becomes a much more interesting and successful painting, even though the other ones aren't bad. I've always had to do something creative, and gardening is the other thing. I do a lot outside. We'll take a little walk. And right now I've got paintings up for a show tomorrow that is an art and garden tour. So during COVID, I'd go places and people would come right up to me, be on the lakefront. What are you painting? Right in your face. And you're like, I hate to wear a mask while I'm outside painting, but it seemed to me like I could um, paint. One of my friends said, why don't you just paint around your house? You got some good. I went, I never thought about that. I thought you had to pack up, haul hike somewhere and set up. And I just didn't think, because I like to do water and reflections. Well, there's not a lot of water and reflections in my backyard.
You like to do eventful scenes.
Yeah, more scenic
Mm-hmm.
than close up. I mean, you'll see some things that look more close, but more panoramic. And I just didn't think of that in my back. So I started doing that. So I had about 15 paintings I did. And I'm having a little art and garden tour. But you'll see that later. Everything, the architects, the interior designers, the commercial artists, everybody took the same basic courses. So at first I was I was with everybody until we branched off and got more specific. I think the history degree didn't really do that. I think history was something I was always interested in.
Wasn't your passion?
It loved history, but didn't want to be a writer. So if I paint something in City Park that's historical, yes, it's because I love the history of the park and the
You don't want to like 15 pages about it?
Not really, or more. There'll always be more. It's really hard of me to squeeze words out, but when I squeeze that paint out, I'm gone. You got to squeeze the tube, then you can paint. You can have everything that you want. You can have a canvas, you can have an easel, you can have brushes, but until you actually squeeze the paint out on the palette, you probably aren't going to paint. You're going to just think about painting and what you want to paint and dream about it. But I mean, I see so many things. I do still take pictures and I'll go, wow, I better take a picture of that. I'm going to want to paint that one day. And then I'll go back and I might paint it. And other times I go, I took pictures of this and there's nothing in it. What did I see? But I'm not there. I'm looking at a picture that didn't have so I do use that a little bit. Or I take a picture also, if I'm going to go back, like have some mountain paintings that I had to go back and do more than one sitting. So the even though the underpainting's there, I'd take a picture to make sure I'm standing right where I want to stand. You'd be surprised how you move a little bit and you go, wait a minute, and you start painting again. No, that tree is not quite there. So it is good to take photography. Will help you, do that. Or if you can't finish a painting, you can finish it by looking at the photograph. That usually I have an idea, and I do go back. I go back to City Park. I go back to Fontainebleau, Fairview. I go back, so there are places that I know, and that's easy. The wildlife refuge, like almost every year I do something with the azaleas because I know they're going to be there blooming and they're great. So, I kind of know. But if not, you're absolutely right. I have to go and check it out and see what I want to paint. And if it's a big enough area, or I want to see it from this angle, but what does it look like over here? What does it look like a little later in the day? What does it look like a little earlier in the day? And then settle on it. You can't actually say I'm painting that wave right there. But that's a beach picture. I have another one.
Right behind you.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I have. Yeah, the water. Yeah, that takes a little more. Yeah, I take a photograph and yeah, that particular one, yeah, I couldn't possibly finish that one all at one time. But there is a pattern to waves, and they do similar things. They're never the same, but they do similar things the way they're rolling in. And if the wind picks up, they're different. That's the thing about water. When I teach classes, I'll tell the students, you like the water right now? Start painting that, because the wind picks up, you've got texture, and you've got different colors. You don't have the reflections you thought were so beautiful. So if that's what drew you in, you better paint that first, or you'll come back the next day and do it. The water, I mean, look at the colors of water. I mean, there's so many colors in water, and I love the reflections too. So I do a lot, but there's always that South Louisiana yellowish ochre water, but it's water, and you know it's water when you see it. You say, oh yeah, that's water. But if you just took that color and you said, oh, that's not water. My family's been here since the beginning. So you can't get a South Louisiana girl to really move away and be happy. I just don't. A New Orleans girl, oh gosh. I've lived in North Louisiana. I knew I didn't want to stay there. I don't know how they drink that coffee. Anyway, so yeah. Now my husband is from Detroit, so you would think, well, maybe he might want to go to Detroit, but he moved here, and just like a lot of guys, they just smell that sweet olive or magnolia, and they're here for Jazz Fest or something, and they go, "Wow, this is great." And you don't have snow, and you don't have to shovel snow all winter. It's like, yeah, I might not like the humidity, but I guarantee you I don't like shoveling snow. So, um, yeah, I think that it's family too. Family keeps me here, you know.
Born and raised, you love
Born and
nature,
raised.
and then
I couldn't I couldn't do it. I mean, I like to visit places. We go to the mountains quite often in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I like that a lot. And I like to paint there, but I wouldn't want to live there. It's a great place to visit. But I don't know, the history here. I mean, that's what I'm saying, family and family history. I mean, I can go to those cemeteries and I show you some really old tombstones, right? From, I think, oh gosh, I can't even remember the oldest one, but 1718. I can't remember that. I'd have to go get that whole thing out again. But yeah, the fact that the French came here, so somebody in my background came with Iberville and Bienville, and then some came through Canada, but they weren't the Cajuns. They came through Canada and then settled here. Um, but I have most information of the French, and my mère would tell me about, oh, the family, So I was, I just feel like this is where I belong. I just belong here. South Louisiana. Yeah, there is a difference. There is a difference. I think it's the water, the oak trees. I mean, everybody who I know that comes down here and they say, I've never seen such magnificent, now I'm sure there's some in other places, but the magnificent oaks, they're just amazing. And the history, I think that actually, I mean, that brings people here. Nobody I know will go through the quarter and not say, we could be in Europe. I mean, and so why is that? It's because of all of our ancestors coming here and making it look like home. So we just have something that there's no other place like it. There really isn't. Let's face it, there is no other place. I didn't use palette knife for the longest time. I just didn't pick it up. And then I said, I'm just not going fast enough. I need to get more paint on my canvas quicker. And I pick up a palette knife, and all of a sudden, that was good enough. I didn't need to take a brush and go over it. Or I could start out and do the underpainting in a very thin, watered down paint. And then I would come back with my palette knife or a loaded brush, but sometimes the palette knife. So you can actually, I'm sure, tell the ones where I used the palette knife or just got thicker with the paint. I love this painting. I'm surprised nobody's bought it, but that one was done in July, in a summer in July. And I went on one side of the levee. It was so hot, I was just dripping. But I wanted to do, so I said, well, Bob, the water's got to be cooler. So I go over the levee and I start to set up. It's just as hot. And then I stood under the oak tree at the top of the levee. Now I still had my bandana for sweat, and I even had a little fan, but I was comfortable and I actually could paint that. And I think it just lended itself. It's kind of the building the building is, the architecture of it is more sleek and smooth. There's nothing rough about it. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do, and you learn that while you're painting. That, okay, I'm painting this, I'm painting it quick, and I've got to get this shape or this line in, and you just do it. And if it's quick enough, you don't have to go back. You don't have to beef it up. You don't have to. It's more like getting the values in. You get the values in and just very lightly put in some little strokes, and they resemble what you're looking at. So that was, you know, I had to take my backpack, and my husband's in some seminar, and I'm going to go take my backpack and set up because I'm not going to sit in a hotel room.
Of course.
And so, yeah, and the ones from that you see that are from the, you can tell are looking out of a window from high up. There might not be too many in here, but a few. When he would say, I'm only going to be a few minutes, and I had been painting all day in City Park and I was going to pick him up. After the first time, when he was 2 hours, I said, I'm going to bring my paintings up. And so I would stand at the windows, almost outside, there was no ledge, on the 36th floor of One Shell Square, and I would paint the bridge. I could see the river and the bridge, or I could look another way and see like the Jesuit church, and there's the Westin Hotel, if it's still called that. So there are some of those, because I couldn't just be somewhere. I mean, yeah, I like to read. I love to read. But I had been painting all day. I was in my paint clothes, and I had my paints. It's a natural. It's natural. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to paint. That's me. I can't tell you when the first time I sold a painting was. It had to be at a show. So St. Tammany Art Association would have shows, and when I joined them, oh no, actually it wasn't. The first time I saw there were watercolor paintings. I had done some abstract watercolors, and since I was teaching at Delgado, there was a coffee shop across the street. And I was friends with the people that owned it. And they said, well, why don't you have a show here? And I sold quite a few small watercolor abstracts. I can show you one of those. I'm sure I have one or two of those somewhere.
So you did dabble in abstract?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no, no, no. That's not something that I don't like or wouldn't do.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to show you one outside that's kind of half and half. It's sort of like based on the art, the scene that I'm looking at, but also it's abstracted. I think actually impressionism has to abstract a little bit. You can't, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not doing photorealism. Well, it's representational. I want you to see the thing that I'm painting or feel the thing that I'm painting. So if it's too abstract, it's just a bunch of colors on canvas, and you know.
You're gonna try to be Kandinsky.
No, not at all. Um, but I look at some of my work, and I can look at it and I go, I could easily make that an abstract. I could take that painting, put it on an easel, and abstract everything I've painted, and it would work because the colors are good. The composition is great. So yeah, I think that
for you, the abstraction comes after you've already created a painting. You create a painting and then you come back and look. Okay.
No, I'm just saying that I think I could do it though.
Okay. Okay.
I think you can see one down here looks pretty abstract. It's but it looked abstract when I was looking at it.
Okay.
So that's what it looked like. Sometimes all those reflections, there's so many colors, you can't, the bottom half of that painting would make you say, that's abstract. And if you do, you take a little piece of a painting and you go, I don't know what that is unless I'm seeing the whole thing.
Which is why you do these.
Yeah, well, you would have known that one. But I'm just saying,
you could expands the view.
Yeah, but you could take a little piece of any of these paintings and look at them and say, if I just was looking at that, I wouldn't know what the heck I was looking at. But that could be a painting because it's a good composition, the colors are good, there's some energy there. Yeah, that's a good painting. So yeah, I think you can do that. Again, I'm not, as far as if it was really trying for extreme realism, then you wouldn't see that. You would say, oh yeah, that's part of that bridge or part of that tree or part of that ground cover or part of that water, because it would be so realistic. No idea. See those little ones on the wall? I have bigger ones. Those are ones I did last that were smaller. But I was experimenting with color combinations and the movement of the paint on the canvas. And I really wish I could tell you that there was this thing, but it just came to me. If I ever think of it, I'll call you. But I really don't know what made me do that, except that I thought it was interesting. And again, maybe it was because I started with something small and wanted to expand the whole painting. So even though it wasn't a view, it was the painting that needed something else, or I felt like yeah, I'll show you some.
How do you attach to canvases?
It's a secret.
The secret,
Mm-mm.
trade secret, okay?
No, it's not really a trade secret. You don't ever pull those apart and say, oh, I got two paintings, because they are attached
Mhm.
with nails, screws, and things like
It's
that.
not
Oh,
coming off.
no.
No way it's
Mm-mm.
coming off. Okay.
And if it does, you've just ruined something beautiful.